This is Booked for Drama, where stories burn, hearts break, the tea is always hot and never a part 2. Today we're diving into the do-over. Let's go! Chapter 1. I awakened to an ancient lineage within my family, a gift for transformation that would fully manifest when I came of age, bringing with it the chance to choose my gender. In a past life, to stay by the side of the man I loved, I'd chosen to remain a girl. I played the devoted wife and mother, helping him ascend from an unknown small-time operator to a titan of industry, a Silicon Valley magnate. Our 2 children I'd seen through to Harvard and Stanford. But on my 50th birthday, after eating a cake he'd baked himself, I'd gargled a mouthful of black blood, bitter and metallic. My children stood by, their eyes as cold and flat as lake ice, not even reaching for a phone. "Mom, you can go peacefully. Aunt Brooke will take care of us and Dad." Being your child was truly humiliating. They'd exploited me for a life of privilege, then casually shoved me into the abyss. When I next opened my eyes, I stood in the family sanctuary. Grandpa extended a yellowed parchment. "Casey, it's time to decide." I took the aged parchment from Grandpa's hand, the paper feeling thin and fragile, like a dried leaf. Each stroke of the pen on its surface etched my destiny, the final flourish a definitive, irreversible declaration. Grandpa looked up, startled. "Are you truly certain that you wish to be a man? And your boyfriend, will he accept you after your transformation?" Before he'd even finished speaking, Liam was already peering anxiously from outside the sanctuary door, but he was an outsider, unable to enter, unable to hear our words. I reverently lit the parchment, watching it curl into ash, and offered Grandpa a soft smile. "Grandpa, my mind is made up. Please keep my decision a secret until the transformation is complete." "Very well. Your life, your steering wheel. The ritual will be done in a week. Your new ID will be delivered to you." A week. I whispered the words to myself. A week from now, I would have a completely new life, one so perfect it felt like a dream. But before that, Liam had to be dealt with. Stepping out of the sanctuary, Liam immediately grasped my wrist. "Casey, you've sacrificed so much for me. I swear, you'll never regret it. Will you bind yourself to me?" I hesitated. In my past life, Liam had never mentioned a binding pact. Could he be a reborn soul too? I tested him. "A pact isn't like marriage, Liam. Once it's sealed, we can never truly separate. Can you genuinely love me forever, never stray?" "Of course," he vowed. His eyes brimmed with what looked like devotion, but I saw past the practiced performance, catching the glint of cold ambition, the very same ruthless glint that had shone in them when he'd raised the poisoned glass to my lips in another life. "Casey, the thought of you ever leaving me, it kills me. Please, say yes. Say you'll be mine." A sudden, searing knot twisted in my stomach, a phantom agony as if the poison from a forgotten lifetime had ripped through my guts all over again. I swallowed the pain, offering him a bright, sweet smile. "Yes, I'll bind myself to you. I don't want to be separated from you either. Let's do it now." I cut a lock of his hair, intertwined it with a strand of my own, and asked Grandpa to burn it in the sanctuary's brazier. Liam and I bind our lives today, in love and unwavering devotion. Chapter 2. Grandpa started to speak, then stopped. "Casey, but you're not." He remembered my request, his gaze sweeping over us, complex and heavy, before finally just letting out a deep sigh. Watching the hair turn to ash in the flames, a genuine smile finally touched my lips. That very night, Liam began discussing wedding details with my parents. He shed his daytime veneer of charm like an old skin, sprawling at the head of our dining table, not even bothering to look up. "Auntie, when are you transferring the house and car titles to my name?" Mom's face hardened. "What are you talking about?" "To be frank, my family doesn't have much money. Wedding expenses will probably fall to you. If you're worried about costs, we don't have to have a wedding at all, I don't care. But after we're married, Casey is my wife. Her house and car will be mine eventually anyway, so what's the difference if it's sooner rather than later?" He even reached over to drop a chicken drumstick into my bowl, grinning smugly. "Right, Casey." My parents' eyes locked on me. They knew this decision ultimately rested with me. Casey, did you hear that? You're not even married yet, and he's already eyeing our assets. Do you really think you'll have a good life with him? Even if you stay a girl, your father and I can find you a much better match. If you say the word, we'll throw him out right now. Dad silently grabbed a wooden stick. Liam scrambled, yelling, "We're already bound by a pact. You can't back out. If Casey isn't my wife, she'll face a terrible end." My parents looked as if they'd been struck by lightning. Seeing my silence, Mom panicked, calling me foolish, while Dad, his face purple with rage, clutched his chest as if his heart might burst right out of it. I placed a steadying hand on Mom's trembling shoulder, soothing her quietly. Liam's true malice and shamelessness, they hadn't even begun to witness. The heavens had granted me this second chance, meant for me to see the true depths of his depravity. I turned to Liam, my voice calm. "Aside from the house Mom and Dad live in, all our family's assets are in my name. 16 lavish estates, 2 prime downtown properties, 70 commercial storefronts, 34 vehicles, and 600 million in savings. If you want them, I'll transfer them all to you. This house, though, stays with my parents for their retirement. Do you agree?" Liam's eyes glowed with avarice. In another life, I'd merely nudged him, and he'd soared to unimaginable wealth. He'd known I had money, but he'd never grasped the true extent of my family's fortune. He readily agreed, "Absolutely, but your parents need to write their wills now. After they're gone, that house has to be signed over to me, and only me." His greed held no surprises for me. I arranged everything exactly as he demanded. As the final deposit was transferred to Liam, a single, iridescent snake scale shimmered into existence on his left forearm. What is this? "A token of our binding pact. When all 3 scales appear, the pact will be fully sealed." "Why didn't it appear before?" he mumbled, confused, then quickly shut his mouth. He saw my gaze was calm, even though I'd just given away everything. Liam looked away, a flicker of unease in his eyes. "You don't have to be upset. My money is your money, isn't it? I'd never treat you badly. When the money's in the man's hands, the family thrives. In the previous life, I was the one who initiated the pact. When he swore he'd treat me well, his words were far more sincere than they were now. But what had he done in the end? A cup of poison, sending me to my grave." Chapter 3. With money in his pockets, Liam first splurged on his dream cruiser motorcycle. Then he went wild with credit cards, buying an avalanche of jewelry, designer clothes, and skincare products, all things women typically craved. My phone buzzed with an endless stream of notifications, each one a digital breadcrumb of his extravagance. What he bought for me, however, was a $9.99 plated bracelet from a discount online store. I took it, smiling. Not a single complaint. With 4 days left until the ritual's completion, Liam suddenly dragged me from my room in the middle of the night. Still in my sleep shirt, I was yanked from bed, dragged out into the biting night air and shoved into his car, which sped us toward the hospital. "My sister was in a car accident. You have the same blood type as her. You have to donate blood." Once we were in the emergency room, I knew. His sister was Brooke. The Aunt Brooke my son had spoken of. The woman Liam and my children truly loved. Liam grabbed a nurse by the arm, just as she was about to enter the operating room. "Take her blood, no matter what. Save Brooke." The nurse drew 400 milliliters from my arm. Liam's brow furrowed savagely. "Isn't it supposed to be 1,000 milliliters? Why aren't you drawing more?" The nurse looked at him, distressed. "Drawing more than 400 milliliters is dangerous. 1,000 milliliters would put this lady into shock. Besides, the patient inside isn't severely injured, and the blood we ordered is already on its way." "I don't care. Her blood is better. Just draw hers." He turned to me. "She's my wife. Don't you think I know her body? A mere 1,000 milliliters of blood. What's the big deal?" Onlookers began to murmur. "This guy's a real piece of work, using his own wife as a blood bag. Seriously, as if blood has different grades. He just wants to kill his wife." "Miss, don't you dare agree. It's not worth hurting yourself for someone else." I smiled. extending my arm towards the nurse. Draw it. Liam asked for it. I have to give it to him. The nurse stared at me in disbelief, as if I were insane. Even the people who'd been defending me moments before now turned away, muttering that I had no brains, that you couldn't save someone determined to destroy themselves. I was unmoved. I watched, impassively, as my blood drained from my body. How did Liam know my blood was better? In my previous IOUS life, he'd been in the ICU with pneumonia, doctors saying he wouldn't make it. It was my own blood I'd given to brew the medicine that brought him back. So in this life, even with the hospital having plenty of blood, even with Brooke's injuries being minor and not life-threatening, he still insisted on draining me dry to save his one true love. A hazy curtain of pain descended, and when I finally blinked awake, Liam was there, a blurred shape by my bed. I pulled up his sleeve, revealing the second snake scale on his left arm. Liam saw it too, his eyes a jumble of conflicting emotions, as he softly comforted me. Casey, I never knew you loved me so much. I was wrong this time. I'm sorry. The doctor said you lost too much blood. You miscarried the baby, and your uterus couldn't be saved. You can't have children anymore. Chapter 4. Limited. Really? Well, if it's gone, we gone. I don't care anymore. I smiled. Really? Well, if it's gone, it's gone. I don't care. You're not angry, Liam, seeing my indifference, was suddenly livid. That was our child. Why aren't you heartbroken it's dead? Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant sooner? And if I had told him sooner, would he have stopped drawing my blood? Besides, what was there to cherish about Liam's child? I'd raised them with boundless effort, providing them with the most privileged life and the best education. Our son, brilliant but defiant NT. Our daughter, quiet and obedient, but with a low IQ. Did they reach those elite universities through their own merit and talent? No, it was all thanks to my family's ancient lineage and my tireless support. But had those ingrates shown an ounce of gratitude? They'd watched, unmoved, as their mother writhed on the floor, her fingers digging into the wood, bleeding from the sheer agony. They'd even been cheerfully discussing where to take Brooke on vacation. With that thought, I gripped Liam's hand. Liam, it's happened. What can we do now? At least your sister was saved. She's safe. If you want children later, we can just adopt hers. Is that so? Liam was stunned by my apparent reasonableness. He seemed unable to comprehend how I could be so utterly devoted. But my suggestion held no downsides for him, so he pulled me into his arms. Casey, how blessed am I to have a wife like you. From now on, we'll adopt Brooke's children. You raise them well, and they'll surely succeed. And then they'll honor you properly. If they ever disobey, I'll teach them a lesson. His words flowed like honeyed promises, but in the twisted landscape of his desires, I knew exactly whose back he'd be breaking. Chapter 5. Liam brought Brooke home and put me in charge of her care. While I was washing fruit, Brooke casually tossed a flimsy lace thong into the bowl of freshly washed fruit one was preparing. Sister-in-law, I just got out of the hospital. The doctor told me not to get wet. Could you do this for me? My hand paused. Then I put the lace thong under the faucet and began to rinse it. Brooke arched a brow, a malicious smile twisting her lips. Liam was right. You're completely tied to him. Pathetically devoted. Is it true that you'll do anything Liam asks? Not exactly. There are still 2 days until the ritual is complete. I didn't look up, focusing only on my task. This will be the last time I help Liam. The last time for what? Liam walked over, saw what was in my hand, and shot Brooke a disapproving glance. In a few days, he wouldn't even have this small spark of guilt. He'd simply treat me like a maid. Brooke smiled at me. Then I'd better make the most of this last chance. The night before the ritual was complete, Liam and Brooke bound my hands and feet and shoved me into a large birdcage. I frowned, calling Liam's name. What are you doing? Where are you taking me? The car jolted and bounced, until the cloth covering the birdcage was yanked off. Light flooded in. My eyes met a pair of lecherous, greedy eyes. The man looked at least 70, staring at my chest, drooling. Soft, so soft. You sure I can play with her however I want tonight? A low, Molten heat began to coil in my gut. My gaze was a brand, burning into Liam. What is the meaning of this? Liam avoided my eyes. Brooke draped herself over his shoulder. A few days ago, we had a motorcycle accident. We accidentally ran over and killed Big Tony's prize-winning dog. Tony said if we couldn't bring his dog back to life, he'd take one of Liam's arms. So I suggested you spend a night with Tony, to make amends for us. You love Liam so much, you wouldn't mind, right? A bitter, humorless laugh almost bubbled up from my throat. Still, I stared at Liam. Liam, I want you to say it. Say you're really going to hand me over to another man. All for the life of a dog. Casey, don't be afraid. Just tough it out for one night. Besides, I'm your husband. I don't care if you get dirty. So what do you have to worry about? Chapter 6. Liam's demands truly knew no bottom. My chest heaved with rage, and I dug my nails into my palms, repeating, endure, endure to myself. The old man, Tony, grew impatient. What do you mean, just a dog? What about a dog? I ought to take your lives for killing my dog. Looks like this woman isn't willing, huh? Before I lose my temper, you get over here, tie your wife to my bed yourself. Or you can find out what happens when you cross me. Liam's face went white. He gritted his teeth, opened the cage door without bothering to untie me, and hoisted me, then tossed me onto the bed. A thick, disgusted glob of spittle left my mouth, landing squarely on his cheek. You're truly shameless, Liam. I gave you so much money, and you can't even handle a simple problem like this. Say whatever you want. Liam pinned my hands, binding them to the bedpost. Casey, remember this. After tonight, I'm the only one who won't look down on you. Don't even think about leaving me. From now on, you'll be obedient, and we'll live our lives with me and Brooke. I won't mistreat you. I sank my teeth into his hand, biting down until my mouth filled with the coppery taste of blood. Liam hissed, drawing a sharp breath, and wrenched his hand free after several attempts. Then he slapped me hard across the face. Crazy bitch. Just wait till tomorrow. I'll teach you a lesson. With that, he even managed a fawning smile at Tony, then pulled Brooke from the room. Brooke looked at me, disheveled and trap-ped, her eyes betraying an unmasked mix of pity and triumph. Tony, smelling faintly of stale cigars and desperation, lunged forward, his gnarled hands fumbling at my clothes. Just as his hand reached my back, the clock chimed midnight. A wave of excruciating pain ripped through my body. My limbs curled in on themselves, the ropes binding me straining taut. Tony frowned, peering at me. What are you doing? What trick is this? Liam, get in here. What's wrong with this woman? At that exact moment, Liam, outside, looked down and saw it, the third snake scale shimmering into existence on his left hand. What was happening? He'd always believed the scales signified Casey's love. The more scales, the deeper Casey's love, the more inseparable she was from him, the stronger their marriage pact. But now Casey clearly hated him. Why were the scales still appearing? A sudden, immense dread flooded him, a primal terror that rooted him to the spot. It was the instinct of a small animal facing an overwhelming predator. He frantically pushed open the door. Tony, what's going on? As he entered the room, a strange, yet familiar, young male voice cut through the air. The voice commanded. Chapter 7. Liam didn't understand why he'd knelt. Even less, why he couldn't defy that voice's command. It felt as if an invisible hand in the air pressed down, suffocatingly, on his shoulders. What in the hell was going on? Hadn't Tony called him in about Casey? But there was no man's cursing, no woman's cries. The silence was absolute, heavy and cold as a tomb at midnight. His skin prickled with a cold dread. He strained his neck, trying to see his surroundings. The familiar male voice spoke again. Try anything else, and I'll put your eyes out. Liam's panic spiked. He realized his hand was actually reaching for a knife. If he so much as twitched, he would plunge it into his own eyes. I watched Liam tremble like a startled quail, a wave of annoyance washing over me. My previous clothes were no longer an option. I pushed the old man, Tony, aside and walked further into the room, finding a silk robe. This, Tony the Tooth, Moretti, having witnessed my transformation from woman to man and not fainted, was already a tough character. I pulled a knife from the kitchen drawer and tapped it against his cheek. You're quite the tough guy, aren't you? What? Not scared? Not a peep? The old man's jowls quivered. His legs gave out, and he sank to the floor, though his face didn't show as much panic as one might expect. I've lived long enough to hear about all sorts of strange things. You're Casey, from the Case family, aren't you? An old shaman once said your family was the only remaining lineage inheriting the power of shape-shifting, and that no one should ever cross you. I never believed it, he finished, then, with a look of utter defeat, unbuckled his belt and viciously lashed Liam across the back. You worthless dog, why didn't you tell me your wife's name when you called me? Reckless fool, trying to harm one of the Case family. I should have gutted you yesterday. Liam let out a pained howl. But still, he refused to believe. It's impossible. Casey would never get angry. She loves me so much, she'd do anything for me. She wasn't like this before. I yanked his head back by a handful of hair, forcing his eyes to lock with mine. The before you're talking about, that was another life, wasn't it? Do you remember how I died? Did you really think the heavens would be so kind as to give you a second chance after all the evil you did? Liam's pupils fluttered. In his eyes, I saw my own reflection. The slender, delicate Casey of before was gone. In her place stood a young man with the strength and physique of a true adult. Liam gave a bitter laugh. So that's it. You're reborn too. So you never chose to stay a girl. You've been lying to me this whole time. You've changed into this. But why? Why can we still be bound by a pact? A marriage pact, as I'd entered into with Liam in my previous life, could only be between a man and a woman. It had been meant to transfer my life and my destiny to Liam, making everything he did smooth and successful, making his every wish come true. If I were him, I would have been obsessed with such power. No matter what, he would have bound me to his side. It should have been so easy for him. All he had to do was treat me well, live a good life with me, just like every loving couple in my family had done, in perfect harmony, growing old together. But he didn't want that. He greedily wanted my destiny, and another woman's body and affection. Such good fortune doesn't exist in this world. He owed me, and he would pay back every penny, no exceptions. I looked at Liam with cold indifference. There's more than one kind of binding pact. I'm a man, and you're a man. The most fitting bond for us, of course, is a master-servant pact. I'll grant your 3 wishes. From this moment on, you will not be able to defy any of my commands. Liam's face turned ashen. So, you are giving me money, letting me donate blood, taking my place with Tony. He finally understood. I smiled, encouraging him to continue. Fulfill 1 wish, and a snake scale appears. Now, all 3 scales were perfectly etched on his left hand. Even if he tried to cut out the flesh, the pact between us would never be broken. Liam's face was filled with despair. I clapped my hands together and stood up. Let me give you a demonstration. Liam, go outside now and bring Brooke in. Chapter 8. Brooke struggled against Liam's grip. Liam, have you lost your mind? Why are you grabbing me? Go get Casey. She looked at me, then at Tony. Not a single woman's shadow in sight. She must have thought I'd escaped. Tony, don't be angry. That woman can't have gone far. We'll go catch her right now. We promise you won't lose anything. We didn't serve you well tonight, but from now on, whenever you visit, Casey is yours to command. This woman sounded like a madam, still trying to pimp me out. Liam and Tony both recoiled, looks of utter revulsion on their faces. I let out a soft chuckle. Brooke, seeing me as her only salvation, fixed her innocent, wide eyes on me. Young man, please, put in a good word for me with Tony. Just let me go, and Casey can do anything. She's a super beauty, aren't you tempted? Tony slapped her. A sharp, resounding smack. Are you out of your mind? What quarrel do you have with Casey, that you'd hurt her like this? I suspected he really wanted to ask what quarrel Liam and Brooke had with him, dragging him into such monumental trouble. Brooke, slapped, looked utterly stunned. She clutched her face, staring at Tony and Liam. What? Do you regret it? Didn't you too agree to use Casey as payment? Now you're playing the good guys. What's wrong with you? Were you drugged? I tapped the table, drawing all three pairs of eyes to me. I felt I had to speak up for Liam and Tony. You're wrong there. They're not playing good guys. They have to be good guys. After all, there's a much bigger threat right in front of them now. Ask them, do they still dare to harm Caden? Liam shook his head frantically. Without my command, he still held Brooke tightly. Tony, however, was much freer. The old man, surprisingly flexible, sank to his knees before me. Miss Casey, no, Sir Caden. Today, I was blind. How do you want me to atone? Just name it, and I'll do exactly as you say. I rolled my eyes. You usually just scam people and collect protection money. Got a few small-time thugs who've forgotten their place. Don't try to play the honorable gangster with me. Tony's face flushed crimson from my taunt. I swept my gaze over him. You're old enough that a few days in jail wouldn't mean much. Someone kills your dog, and you demand a limb. So, how about this? We're on the second floor. You jump, I'll take one of your legs. The color drained from Tony's face instantly. He wasn't young anymore. Jumping from a second story wasn't something he could just shrug off. For an old man, a broken bone or a fall could be a death sentence, depending entirely on fate. But he didn't dare to bargain. He actually had more guts than Liam. Gritting his teeth, he threw himself out the window. A loud thud was followed by a gut-wrenching scream. Still screaming, so he wasn't dead. Good, he was hearty. I kindly called 911 for him. Brooke collapsed to the floor, Liam still dragging her by one arm, unable to stand. Who are you? Sir Caden, you're also a case. I shrugged nonchalantly. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Caden Case. Caden, as in Caden. In the past, I was Liam's girlfriend. Now, I am his master. Brooke was terrified, on the verge of madness. Liam said your family could change gender. He wasn't lying. Can you turn into snakes too? No, I don't want to be with a monster like you. Liam, let me go. Turning into snakes was a wild rumor. My family's ancestors left us only one gift, the ability to change gender, granting our descendants more choices. Many believed that our children would always choose to become boys, as in any era, men often had more opportunities to thrive. But that wasn't the truth. We never abused our gift, instead accepting our fate with grace. We never sought to escape our assigned gender simply to lead an easier life. My family hadn't tried to sway my initial choice. They'd been proud of me, encouraged me to love freely. But the feeling of being killed was too painful. The feeling of giving your heart and soul, only to have it trampled, was too painful. The feeling of tirelessly nurturing the next generation, only to be betrayed, was also too painful. So I escaped. In this life, I would not be a woman again. And the two wretches who had brought me to this pass were standing right before me. Brooke saw the ice in my eyes deepen. Her panic became impossible to conceal. She cried, pleading with me. Caden, please let me go. I didn't mean to hurt you. Look, I'm pretty too. If you want, I can do anything you ask. A wave of nausea washed over me. What do you think a woman is in your eyes? Just a piece of meat to be traded. In her mind, everyone, herself included, was merely merchandise, to be used to please others. Brooke's pupils flickered with astonishment, then were swiftly swallowed by darkness. She bit her lip. I don't care. No one will stop me from surviving. I sent her to a high-end gentleman's club. When I led her in, Brooke wore a look of, I knew it, on her face, as if thinking, I knew you'd take revenge this way. Outlealed the manager over in front of her. First, you can't let her leave, she must work here for 10 years. But I called the manager over in front of her. First, you can't let her leave. She must work here for 10 years. Second, no one is to force her to entertain clients unless she volunteers. I led Brooke through every private lounge. You want to degrade yourself, thinking everything can be traded. So I'll give you that chance. You'll have money, you'll have freedom. If you don't want her, you won't fall into any bad habits. But Brooke, can you truly live like that? I knew that willing degradation was more soul-crushing than being forced. Because no one would be compelling her. Every step would be her own choice. Perhaps one day, for a luxury handbag, or a designer lipstick, she would lower her own standards. And then slowly sink deeper into the mire. When she regretted it, she wouldn't even have anyone else to blame. It would all be her own fault. At that point, could Brooke ever accept her own ugliness? Ignoring her desperate pleas, I turned and walked out of the club with Liam. Outside, the dazzling neon lights bathed Brooke's white dress. She looked like a butterfly caught in a spiderweb. Would she be completely drained of her essence, turned into an MPTY husk? Or would she break her wings to escape? I would watch and see. I thought you'd send her to some place like northern Myanmar. Hearing that, I frowned, telling Liam to repeat himself. Liam cautiously eyed my expression. Don't you want revenge on her? You said she couldn't be forced to entertain. That's not revenge at all. A place like northern Myanmar is a woman's hell. I thought you'd send her there. I laughed derisively. I truly wish Brooke could hear what you just said. If she knew the man she loved spoke like this, Brooke might just stab him to death. That would certainly save me trouble. I commanded Liam, slap yourself 100 times. The sharp, cracking sound of palms hitting flesh filled the car. The next morning, Liam's face was still red and swollen. I commanded Liam, transfer all the assets you previously took from me back to my accounts. My new ID was ready. Liam watched, helpless, as everything he thought was his slipped through his fingers, like smoke, dissolving into thin air. His hand trembled as he entered the password. The bank teller, seeing his red eyes and the profound reluctance etched on his face, couldn't help but interject. Sir, are you absolutely sure? You're freely gifting all these assets to this gentleman. If you're not certain, you can always come back later. Liam's eyes welled up with tears, but he persisted, his voice tight. I'm doing this voluntarily. Chapter 9. All my assets are freely gifted to Caden case. The sheer, unadulterated misery twisting his face was almost comical. As the final transfer cleared, he eagerly pulled up his sleeve. But the 3 snake scales remained perfectly intact on his arm. His last shred of hope shattered. I kindly explained, your wish was for me to give you my assets. I did that, didn't I? Have you ever heard of a wish that could be revoked? Better luck in the next life. Liam suddenly remembered something even more terrifying. Your next command. It won't drain my blood, will it? I looked at him with contempt. What use is your blood? It's not a precious commodity. Liam, you seem to really like the idea of northern Myanmar. Why don't you go yourself? He fell to his knees with a thump. No, please, don't give that command. I looked at him with contempt. What use is your blood? It's not a precious commodity. Liam, you seem to really like the idea of northern Myanmar. Why don't you go yourself? He fell to his knees with a thump. No, please, don't give that command. I don't want to go to northern Myanmar. That's a death sentence. I smiled, reassuring him. It's fine. You don't want to go because you're scared. You can't get past your own internal struggle. But with my command, even if you're terrified, you'll have no choice but to do it. Such a brilliant idea you had. Why waste it? Liam's vision blurred. He crumpled to the floor, a limp, pathetic heap. But a master-servant pact was a master-servant pact. When he woke, he found his hands involuntarily packing a suitcase. Then he contacted a scammer in Myanmar, insistent on learning how to make big money. As the car pulled out for the airport, he was screaming at the driver to speed up, even as he wrestled with the car door, frantically pleading with me to save him. The driver looked like he thought he'd picked up a madman. I peeled his trembling fingers, one by agonizing one, from the doorframe. I leaned in, speaking softly but clearly. You want to go. You desperately want to go. Find the harshest camp, the one that drains people dry, and run straight to it. Then, watching his face drain of all color, I closed the car door. The master-servant pact ensured Liam wouldn't die outright. I was curious to see how long he would last in a place he'd so eagerly condemned Brooke to. I returned home to pay my respects to my ancestors, thanking them for my new life. If I had been reborn just one day later, everything would have been set in stone. I would have been completely reduced to a mere possession of Liam and Brooke. My parents seemed to sense something. They didn't interfere with my decision, but instead stayed by my side, helping me slowly adapt to my new life. They said no one in the Case family had possessed the rage to truly change gender and shed everything from the previous existence in recent years. My bravery alone was remarkable. Liam lasted 2 years in that place. I don't know what he endured. I only know the pact became incredibly weak. Then it split into several faint threads, scattered that one day, 2 years later, our master servants the world. Finally, one by one, they snapped. A living Liam must have become worthless. He was transformed into individual, fresh organs. I still went to see Brooke sometimes. At first, Brooke diligently worked, earning more than most people. No one bothered her. By all accounts, she should have been living a decent life. But they had greatly underestimated the influence of the environment. When countless voices whispered in her ear that she didn't need to exert any effort to get rich overnight and live a life of luxury, how could she not be tempted? Before long, Brooke was flaunting her first designer bag. And then it became an unstoppable cascade. Someone once asked me, wasn't I afraid Brooke might genuinely turn her life around and come back to haunt me? But I simply remained silent. Because I knew very well that every drop of sweetness in that kind of place was wrapped in a fatal poison. In the end, Brooke wouldn't even hate me. She would just believe she had bad luck. Mom, you can go peacefully. Aunt Brooke will take care of us and Dad. Like I was told. Later, she got pregnant, and the child was lost when she was beaten in the street by the legal wife. Then her looks faded. Even the ordinary men who had once doted on her were gone. She lived like a rat in a gutter. From then on, I stopped visiting her. Liam and Brooke had once been the 2 greatest nightmares of my life. But now, they posed no threat to me whatsoever. I walked in the sunlight, like the very wind around me. Unburdened. Free. The end. And that's a wrap on today's reading here at Booked for Drama. If you felt anything, rage, swoon, second-hand heartbreak, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow drama lovers. If you have any requests, drop them in the comments. Until next time, keep reading, and keep the drama on the page.